The message continues and the world is still listening. There's a few major points of discussion coming out of this chapter, like Imu is looking at a portrait, a rather large portrait, I'll add, of Nefertari D. Lily, and they are looking up at this portrait rather than down like they do with, say, the elders, while they sit comfortably in the not-so-empty throne. So whatever Lily did and what she meant to Imu seems just to be growing ever larger. There's Joyboy and the possible breadcrumbs that, even as the hero of that story, there's a lot more grey than there is either black or white. The Roger Pirates and the fact that they know all about this past tragedy and future chaos and still all they did was laugh, Rayleigh seems to be prioritizing a good adventure over the safety of the entire world. Obviously we don't know what they know, but it's still kind of funny. But let's go back to page 1, the cover story. Yamato's pilgrimage. Not much has happened yet, but that will soon change because I believe that Blackbeard is heading to Wano. So like I said, nothing really major has happened yet in the cover story, although it has only been 6 volumes worth in fairness. Yamato is going to travel around Wano just as Oden did. She will be passing through each of the major regions of the country and completing odd jobs as she goes seemingly, while encountering others, and the first of which being to take Yasui's blade to Enma's shrine. This more laid-back vibe to the cover story will most likely be around for a little while longer and will last for the majority of this journey, which begun in the Flower Capital will lead anti-clockwise around the land and return back in the Flower Capital. With Kaido and Orochi now gone, we are going to see the people and the country get back on their feet, building it up into a place they can be proud of. The poorer regions will become greater and the prosperity of the Flower Capital will begin to spread to the rest of Wano. Although it won't be a completely joyous time, since even with the liberation the likes of Ebu Sultan still haven't been cured of the effects of the smaller fruits, but at least now they will have some smiles with actual worth and meaning behind them. Onto Kibi with the Okobore and Bakratan specifically being where Luffy tried his hand at sumo wrestling, so maybe Yamato will do the same, really get involved with the culture and so on and so forth. The path will continue through Kuri, then Hakumai Ringo, before finally leading back to the Flower Capital. By this point, I'm assuming that Yamato will have completely come into her own, no longer living as a wannabe Oden, but as her own person. Obviously still with that heavy inspiration, just without the complete obsession to the point of pretending to be the man. Yamato will finally be her own character, I hope at least. To be clear, all this is assuming that the pilgrimage actually reaches its fruition, but there's no guarantee that it will be the case. There's all the chance that all hell will break loose way before then, cutting things short and forcing Yamato to rush back to the capital. So now let's get to the actual good bit. The celebrated return or panicked rush back to the Flower Capital will be caused by the arrival of the Blackbeard pirates, who will have most likely snuck in. Why they are here, well, that's clear: to retrieve the ancient weapon Pluton, which is currently sleeping underneath Mount Fujiyama and is gonna cause a lot of damage when it's woken up. But it won't be all of them, because just like they have been conducting their business so far, they will split up at different locations doing different things. So to recap everyone's current whereabouts, at Hachinosu we have San Juan Wolf, Vasco Shot, Avaro Pizarro, Shiryu of the Rain and Aokiji. On Winter Island we have Blackbeard himself, Doc Q and Jesus Burgess, and finally on Egghead, or maybe having just left Egghead, Katarina Devon and Van Auger, who has just come off of the situation on Winter Island and accompanied with Caribou, the star of this tale, although the demon sheriff Lafitte is still unaccounted for. A few chapters ago, Caribou had a little moment where he confessed his love of Blackbeard to Devon and Van Auger, similarly to Bartolomeo and his obsession with the straw hats. He was completely smitten, his face somehow even uglier than it usually looks, which is saying something since he was literally made out of mud. If he stripped himself naked and started dancing, it wouldn't be as degrading as this stunt that he pulled. But he has the extremely important information about the whereabouts of 2 ancient weapons. So step by step, Caribou needs to convince the 2 members in front of him that he could be of use without giving away too much information, because then he will no longer be of value. Next, they need to get in touch with Blackbeard, either in person or over a transponder snail, report their mission a success, and the interference of a third party a la Caribou, who will tell the captain all the information he knows, and then they will throw him to the wayside since his use has expired. Or maybe they will keep him on board, since for all his many flaws, he is very stealthy, and with the way the Blackbeard pirates have been conducting themselves, and I'm guessing will be conducting themselves until the final war, Caribou does fit nicely into that picture. You've got Shiryu's invisibility, Van Auger's teleportation fruit, Katarina Devon's nine-tailed fox, shape-shifting zone, and so on, so Caribou fits right in. But back to the ancient weapons, he has information on the whereabouts of Pluton and Poseidon, and upon learning this vital knowledge, I'd hazard a guess and say that Pluton is the first on the list for Marshall D. Teach. Given his last known location being Winter Island, I'd assume he wouldn't be too far from there if he still isn't there. So of course Vanoga can get around quicker thanks to his warp fruit, and we know that Winter Island is one of the neighbouring islands to Wano, so not too far to travel there, a lot closer than Fishman Island is, and given Mud and Charlie's vision or prediction of Luffy walking through a burning Fishman Island, I'd say that the place will be very important to said final war, especially since it is right underneath the red line. So Blackbeard is going to Wano. He sends the three subordinates Katarina, Devon, Vanoga and Caribou to ascertain the exact location before he makes his move, which they will find and report back to him. Only thing being that they will also discover that they must bring down the walls surrounding the country to fully retrieve it. And once they alert Blackbeard about that, now we are back to Yamato's cover story, who is somewhere in Wano, either partway through the journey or back in the flower capital having finished it. And going off of the last cover story, Germa 66's Emotionless Excursion, which had 33 pages, and Aokiji showing up on the 22nd one, which is where the cover story took a turn to focusing on Vegapunk thereafter, let's say that Yamato's pilgrimage will calmly continue up until around the 20th to 25th page, where at this point Yamato and the rest of Wano will feel the ground and everything around them shake. Let's title it the Only Child's Holy Inari Shrine Pilgrimage Volume 21, A Mysterious Earthquake. And the next couple volumes, or maybe we will straight up see this as a part of a chapter because of how important it is, the walls around Wano will come crashing down and Blackbeard will reveal himself to Wano. Momonosuke requires Zunisha's size and strength to bring them down, but not Teach, who has access to the Gura Gura no Mi, the Tremor Tremor fruit, which I am more than sure will do the job. And from there maybe it requires a bit more effort to get Pluton up, either powering it up as a weapon or waking it up as a living being. I think it's both, an animal that has either armor or cybernetic enhancements, but that's not the point. Maybe the walls falling attracts Zunisha's attention again and it makes a U-turn back to Wano. That seems plausible. And as soon as Blackbeard's presence is known, and the rest of his crew of course, the Scabbards and Yamato and even Momonosuke will take action. Maybe Blackbeard even sees the giant straw hat Jolly Roger that Luffy gave Momo, and that may give him a little scare. Whether we actually see this conflict in full, I don't know. It seems something of such scale and importance that it does deserve to be in an actual chapter like I said before. So again, going back to the Germa 66 cover story, it cut away to Vegapunk and focused on him for a good few volumes, meaning there's a possibility that the same could happen here. Let's say we do see what's going on in Wano in a chapter. Maybe the cover story moves focus to something else. And remember, there is still one Titanic captain of the Blackbeard pirates unaccounted for. What if we see what Lafitte has been up to all of this time? The last time we saw him was over 300 chapters ago, in chapter 803, where he, alongside Shiryu, were informed by Burgess of Bartigo, the Revolutionary Army's HQ. And just like the rest of the crew, he is a master of stealth. His first appearance saw him infiltrating a meeting of the 7 warlords in Marijua, or better yet in Pangaea Castle, where he recommended Blackbeard for the position of warlord. So what if that is where he is now? Katarina Devon touched Saint Saturn, so she can now assume his appearance. We're kind of leaving Yamato's cover story behind at this point, but let's keep moving. Lafitte knows how to get into Pangaea Castle, so what if Devon goes to meet up with him, maybe Vanoga as well, or he may go elsewhere, so let's stick with Lafitte and Devon for now. Think about the implications of this. 2 members of the Blackbeard pirates are now in the heart of the Holy Land, mere meters away from the hidden ruler of the world, and one of them can take the form of one of the elders, the world's overseers. And what they do from there, it honestly could just be causing chaos, but let's say this comes to pass. These 2 taking action in Marijua could essentially be what kicks off, in full, the final war. I'm not saying these events will happen right after each other, there's still a lot of time to go, but the pieces are being set as we speak. But let's finish where we started with the cover story. Away from Blackbeard, the country being forced open will basically leave Wano with no choice but to take action themselves. Where after the cover story is concluded, the next time we see anyone from Wano will be in the final war. So when people say that everything in the story is pointing towards that great battle that will embroil the world, they mean literally everything. The cover story will most likely continue into Elbaf, and it's safe to say that a few days to maybe a couple weeks will pass in story. So that's plenty of time for all of this to happen without it seeming like everyone is teleporting, even though one of them can. So to summarize, Yamato's pilgrimage is underway but will be interrupted by Blackbeard's arrival, and elsewhere Lafitte is laying the groundworks for the end. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Imu, Blackbeard and Luffy, the final war will be a three-way brawl between those three and each of their factions to decide the fate of the world.